Oshkosh women has the night off. I'm John Surratt, and Tazewell High School saw 4 of their own athletes signed to play at the collegiate level. Starting on the turf, Tyler Gillespie signed to stay in Tazewell County, continue his football dream to play for the Bluefield Rams at linebacker. Tyler explains that the Ram family culture is what sealed the deal.
Close to home, the coaching staff is really welcoming and up there, and really family people up there. I felt like family up there when I went. I'm a big family guy.
Congrats to Tyler. Best of luck at the next level. Now, from the turf to the pitch, 2 Tazewell Bulldogs signed to play at the next level for the Bluefield Rams men's soccer team, starting with Tristan Tarver, who will play midfield for the Rams, as Tristan explains when he knew he could make it to the next level.
Well, it was just like the huge change between sophomore and junior year, because my first 2 years of high school, we just didn't really have a big program. I didn't really come in here junior year, and a lot of us has put in the time and effort into it, and I can feel myself going to the college level.
Congrats, Tristan. Best of luck at the next level and the continuation of your high school career as well. Then his teammate in RJ Sheets will be joining Tristan at Bluefield and will play more of the defensive side of the ball. RJ explains how he chose the Rams and why having his own teammate from Tazewell made the decision a little easier.
It was just an opportunity to continue my soccer career at the next level, and I was pretty excited about that. Way less nerve-wracking to have somebody that I knew to be able to play with. I think we all just wanted to stay together, take the same classes and stuff. And I was pretty excited about that.
Congrats, RJ. Best of luck at the next level and the continuation of your high school career as well. Then finally, the final Bulldog will continue his athletic career on the other side of the Virginia border in West Virginia, as Trevor Smith signed for the Bluefield State University Big Blue golf team, as Trevor talks about how his family history brought him to the Big Blue and what he still needs to do in order to be successful at the collegiate level.
Well, that was where my dad graduated from, and I was kind of going there anyways, and I had the opportunity with golf, so it just made the most sense at the time. Still a lot of prep I'm going to have to do, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but we'll get it done.
Congrats, Trevor. Best of luck at the next level.